Hello everyone, hello, Katie here, and today I wanted to talk about when you are newly diagnosed with some kind of condition, whether it's a chronic illness, whether it's that you're neurodivergent, ADHD, autism, something along those lines. There can be a lot of information coming at you, and when you are newly diagnosed, it is essential to gather like your thoughts and everything in one place. So I wanted to go over some options here because you may have been planning for a long time and maybe your current planner works, but I want to show some options because maybe your planner isn't going to work for the initial part of your learning about your diagnosis, keeping track of a lot of things. And I wanted to share what I did when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's. And I have since gone into remission. So it's kind of an arc now into what I'm doing now. I don't need to track as much. I don't need to do certain things. But there was definitely a period of time that I needed to gather all my thoughts, gather information from everywhere, and just plan out appointments and track a bunch of different info. So that's what I'm going to go over today. So I made some piles here because I wanted to go over some different options, and it just depends on your situation. It depends on what illness you were diagnosed with, and it depends on your flare-ups and what parts of your body are affected. But I wanted to point out, like, obviously the smaller the planner, right, little small ones are going to be easier for you if you have a small purse or if your joints hurt, or if you can't carry heavy things. It could be something with your back. It could be, a myriad of things. So if you only have a large planner, it may be helpful to get a smaller one. And also, one big thing is that this has bands in it. I know a lot of people love to have rings. This is just my sample here. Any kind of rings could be pretty hard on the joints after a while, to open and close them a lot. For someone who's neurodivergent, though, it may be that tactile feeling of opening and closing and just feeling the weight of it. Some people want to feel the weight. Like, this is heavy, but there can be a lot of joy in that. So I want you to kind of look at each one of these options as kind of a spectrum or a circle graph of some kind. So picture a circle, and you could be anywhere within that circle. It doesn't mean like anything's right or wrong, but I just want you to consider some things. So yeah, if you were, for instance, diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and you only have a rings planner, you'll probably have already been feeling it, right? Like in your joints and things, and going, what's going on here? I need to go to the doctor. But continuing on with it may be painful until you get your meds. So it could be that you go down to, let's see, I'll show you. Most of my ring sizes have just some paper stored in them. Maybe a smaller rings like this so you can take it with you, but something that's a little lighter and still has that tactile feel, maybe has the same paper in it, same pen, if you like those feelings. But something you may just need to downgrade. I know I picked this one up, and I've been putting a booklet in here, and I also keep past years in here. So I have 24, 25, 26 in here, and I'll put a new one in here as well. And it helps me keep track of things long term. So the first part is you're going to be seeing specialists. You're going to be getting a lot of info. Where do you put all of that info? And for me, what helped was I picked up a This is a TN size, so this is a TN size as well. And I actually created this. I put all the stickers in because Sterling Ink at the time did not have a TN planner. And I'll link to this below. I set up 1 or 2 health planners if you want to see how I've arranged things over the years. This was one of my first ones. I was tracking a lot of info. I was tracking my meals here. I was tracking sleep, water, energy, stress, the moon cycle, and my own cycle within here. Let's see. Maybe this one I didn't have. Oh no, my cycle's on the bottom here and the moon cycle's on top. And then my BP and steps that I was taking. So this was definitely something I mapped out. Let's see, I have a page back here where I just mapped everything out to see how it would all fit. And so this is what I'd have to draw each week. In here is I would do the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I would draw these on the side. And so this was really essential for just trying to see what foods were activating for me, what would kick up a flare, that kind of a thing. And after this point, though, and getting a lot of info that way, I moved to this layout here. My colonoscopy was done at that point. And so I put in a lot of info this way and color coded it, and it helped that this planner, this is the paper test. I don't think she's going to be making it for a while, and she's finding a source to print out her stuff in Germany. So it may be a while until this one comes out, but it helped a whole lot. So I would barely have to write anything. I just had some numbers to do a really gentle grid here. And so this was just, I was absorbing a lot of information and I was writing down a lot of information. And for me, my A5 would always stay at home. I would not bring that on appointments with me at all. This is what I would bring. And then in the back, I would write notes from my doctor, notes that I've, maybe there's certain numbers I'm looking at to compare. Maybe there's like lab numbers I'm looking for or certain things here. I would write them back here and I had tabs for them. And so the other very key thing is to have your months. So having months set up for appointments. You can see in this one that I created, I color coded, I was doing therapy, my son was doing therapy, and so that's a lot of the yellow stuff, but I was doing infusions, I was doing other things in here, I was getting shots, and so it was really key for me to be able to color code this and see where things were. Give a little closer look there. Yeah, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a while for that one. This one was going to be last year. This was 25, and I did stop using it once we moved here. I had a lot of things I was tracking. And here's the thing, like, I was going into remission here. I was technically in remission at the beginning of 25. And so I had less to write down, and that's why I actually stopped using this. We moved here and we got busy, but like I was just doing this and I wasn't tracking anything else. But so, there's this period of time where you may need to use something like this and then not rely on it so much. It could be within the span of a year. It could be that you set up all your planners at the beginning of the year and was diagnosed January 31st. And then the whole rest of the year is kind of thrown off because you're like, wait, what am I doing now? What is happening? So some other, so that's the week size. And you can also get just like a blank notebook like this and write and create your own to be a companion. Maybe a day size would be better. So this was the paper test day. And so you may find that having something smaller like this and mainly just focusing on how each day goes. And then like at the end, doing some kind of like summary and an overview. Like this is actually the next week, but going back and recording like how you felt each day, something like that. So this is something that you can carry around the house and write down what you eat, write down your blood pressure meds, like what meds you're taking, or blood pressure readings or glucose readings, or like anything like that. It's pretty critical at the beginning of a diagnosis, or that they're wondering what is going on with you, to write down a lot of things. And so picking up something to write those down in. Now, another alternative is, again, just having a little booklet for a little while. So this is just like a pocket booklet from Sterling Ink, that you could just put this inside of your regular planner. So like this is my main planner right now. I may just pick up a little pocket booklet like this, and I could write down just a lot of information, because sometimes you only need to keep track of something for a month. Maybe it's a sleep study, maybe it's a heart monitor, maybe it's, something like that where it's a bit temporary and you're trying to log some symptoms. And then this could just go, live inside your current planner. And then when you go to the doctor, you could take this out and take it with you. The only thing that's not in here is like, unless you create one, you could like create like a little calendar here, just do 3 months at a time. And, at least you can see like when you're at the doctor, you could look ahead and plan something. Or if you know that you're a digital planner with all your appointments, like this could just be your little symptoms notebook. But you could keep all of your appointments digitally and then transfer them into your main planner when you get home. If you also have a lot of paperwork because a lot of times they'll print out a piece of paper when you're done and they'll say, do these things, because it's really important to look at those doctor's notes. It may be helpful to have some kind of zipped container. Now I keep this for like memory planning, and I keep a lot of memorabilia in here, but having something zipped like this can help you, put in some notes here and have it always with you. And then if you're just carrying this by itself, you have it with you and it didn't fall out. Sometimes you'll see one specialist and then you're transferred to a new specialist, or a specialist that can support the first one. I know, like with my Crohn's, I had 2 different specialists I was bouncing between for a while because I had to take care of 2 different things and my meds. And then there's like meds coordination, right? So there's a lot to track, but just wanted to show you like, well, you may need to have something zipped up like that. Another option is to go the route of something undated, and something like this with just little booklets. These are not the correct year, but you could have something where it's just a monthly planner, and you could like redate something that you already have, but I keep these around for some samples. And as long as you can like keep all your appointments in here, but starting something that's undated means you can start this right away. And you can start this like, say it's January 31st. So you can just start into this and know that it's all contained, much like this one, where this one is completely undated. You could start this whenever that you want. Now, again, these are paper tests. She has very limited quantities, if she's not sold out. But just having some kind of grid here, so you could put in your own numbers, start whenever you need to, whenever you could do the month before, because it can help to see which doctors you saw right before your diagnosis or within a month or two. I know I was seeing certain doctors until a certain point, and I found it interesting because sometimes I forget like how close or how far apart those were. And I was seeing my PCP or GP for quite a few issues, and then she was referring me to a couple specialists. We were looking at heart things, we were looking at allergies, we were looking at different things, and finally ended up with the GI specialist actually diagnosing me. So it can help to go back like a month, but having that flexibility of something undated, and it's possible to pick up like an undated something like right now. They're usually sold year round, and sometimes they release a new one, but undated planners are really helpful in that way. So the other thing is that, yes, you may have so much information that having a little planner is not going to be enough. Like I was showing you how all my like food fit on like a little planner, but that may not work for you, and you may need to like plan a whole lot of other things. So in the same way, this is kind of an undated version. This is from Poi and Hun. I remember visiting their store before I left the States, but their stuff is really nice. I used discs way before I used rings, and I loved discs for quite a few years. I love that you can move things around and, take these off and redo them, and you're not trying to not rip them apart for rings. You don't really want to be taking them apart this way, but bending them here and here, especially if you're lacking some hand strength or it's hurting or there's a flare-up. Like my flare-ups can present a bit like RA where my joints hurt. So having something like this is really helpful. The other thing is having like a plastic cover, because sometimes medical stuff gets a little dirty or a little precarious. And having this, sometimes you might need some water around or something. This is going to wipe up really easily. This is just an acrylic, cover here. And you can totally fold this over so it's easier to write on. And this, you have a whole lot more space and it's lighter weight. So, you don't have to have this layout. You could have a totally other layout, but this is what I had in here. And just really documenting a lot of what's happening during the week. You could have a full daily here if you need to track meds throughout the day and just have a really detailed view. And then you could hand this to if you have a home health nurse coming by, some kind of nurse that's visiting you in your home, you can definitely just show them one page. You could take it out or have them handle this. It's definitely a whole lot more medical friendly, I guess, just because of all the plastic on here. It's really nice. And then also I just wanted to bring up, if you are just recording a whole lot of information, a B5, so this is classic disc size, but a B5, so this is huge. Where's my A5? Well, this is just to compare a TN size or an A5 size here. It looks almost the same size, but it's there's probably a good inch up there, couple centimeters. And this can be really helpful. This is just a booklet, again, from Sterling Ink. And sometimes you just need a bunch of space. It could be that you're processing what you're going through. It could be that your handwriting is larger because of your dexterity and because of joint pain. Sometimes you just need a whole lot of space. You could use these grids here to have 3 months and then 3 months, and you could set up a 6 month spread right here if you want to draw all that out and have just a bunch of information. But I wanted to show sometimes when things are at the beginning, you just need to dump a lot of information. Yet it's going to be very lightweight, and you could put this in a laptop pocket of your bag. If you have a larger bag, definitely this could fit in the laptop area very easily. I also wanted to show this one. Again, it's an older planner. Mainly what I wanted to show is you may need just a lot of room to track hourly here. So it could be that you wake up, you take your blood pressure, you see what meds you need, see if you need to take insulin or something, see if your insulin pump is working right. There's a bunch of info at the beginning of the day, and then what you're eating throughout the day, and then what you're taking at night. So that, or just having a really big view of all that information. Another thing that I wanted to show in my weeks that I did here is I kind of alluded to this, was at the beginning of this book, I wrote out a bunch of previous years of certain dates of things. So I have, these are the quarterly goals, and I just put some white out here. And so I have 22, 23, and especially because we were getting ready to move over here, 24 and 25. So 25 is when we moved. I wanted all these important dates. So there's times I went to the PCP, the gynecologist, the GI, the infusions I got an echo, I got a colonoscopy, I went to the dentist, I got shots, all that kind of stuff when I had my last mammogram, stuff like that, where I just wanted to be able to see all of this at a glance. And so you can do that with the beginning, quarterly pages of whatever planner you have for this. But there are many times that they're asking, when did you last see this person? Or when did you, how many infusions have you had? Here, I went from infusions to shots and then back to infusions. That was a thing. And then I was also getting other shots here for, I had to get, a pneumonia. I had to get shingles vaccines. I had to get, numerous things that way. So, just to kind of recap, it just really depends on, what size you're going to need. Obviously, this kind is not going to be quite as portable, but you may have a bag, if you are a bigger tote person, that this would work for you. Or it's possible that something more dynamic, where you're switching out untitled type inserts into some kind of TN system, and also having just something smaller that you can put a band around and keep with you all the time. The biggest thing I'm going to end with is you don't have to spend a ton of money. These are all just samples I've collected over the years, again, for my other business stuff. And to show different options of things when I am going over concepts like this. You can get a really cheap insert anywhere. You could get something that is just a little pocket size. And the key is to not only use it, but to find it. So it could be that you are having foggy days, it's really hard to think through things. So just thinking about a cute little cover, it could just be a plastic cover. So for instance, it could be a much smaller size of this. It could be something that's more checkbook size. I'm thinking of those ones that have a thin plastic cover on them. And what you can do is, it's much like this kind of plastic cover. If you have something that you need to track, here's my appointments, but here is all my info dumping of who I'm talking to, and just sometimes you need 2 notebooks is what I'm saying. And you have your, appointments here, but then you have a bunch of notes in the back. It could be all in one. But if, for instance, you need two notebooks, try to find something. And again, it could be something that you find at the thrift store. It could be something just at a cheap office type store. See if you can put two notebooks in one, some kind of cover like this, so that you don't lose it. And you could put little charms on it. You could put a little bell on it. You could put, sometimes you can get those credit card trackers, and you can put that on the inside, inside here or something, so that you're not losing it. I use trackers all the time on a lot of my things. I use the Apple ones, so they're rather bumpy, but if I was having extreme brain fog and I needed to find it, I know I would probably lose it pretty quickly. So having something, it could be like a little credit card size, as I said, to slip in there, that can really help. But it does not need to be expensive like these. These are, I know, top of the line kind of planner brands, but the booklets, I know from Sterling Ink, are around $15 to $17 each. But you could probably get something at the dollar store, and it could fit inside something that you're already using. So there's just a lot of different options with like, well, how long would this take? Now, something like Crohn's is lifelong. Like, this isn't going away. But as I said, I got to a point where I didn't need to track everything all the time. And so I got to that point where I could just go back to my original planner. But I still have to be pretty careful of making sure I get to all my infusions. So that's where I'm sitting at is I have maintenance and I have labs that I need to do. I have some other things I'm tracking with my GP, but it's not as acute as, what I've had to track with Crohn's. Right now, there's an option for me to have my same meds, but have them in a shot form. So I would do those every 2 weeks. And to me, I would need to track those even more carefully because it would have to fit around my schedule more. So that's why I'm opting for every 8-week infusions, because for me, there's less maintenance going on. But that's just me. So it completely depends. Like with diabetes, it's something that you're managing per day. It's not something you can just take every 1 or 2 months, but it just all depends. Now I know for myself, I had to track loading doses. And so for me, I had to do like week 0, week 2, week 4, and then week 6, I think. I'm trying to remember, week 2, week 6. And it added up to 8 weeks at the beginning, but it just gets that into your system. So I had to map that out in all my monthlies here. So it was really important to have, was it in this one? This was one of my first ones. Oh, and then this is how I tracked all the dates and then transferred them over to this one. I didn't think I was going to bring this one with me, but it was definitely like a different way of me tracking my infusions. So yeah, last year and then this year. So it was important for me to see like, oh, okay, I took care of that last year. I use the year at a glance a lot. Let me talk about that just one more before wrapping this up. I didn't write much on here. So there's different, layouts of things where you could mark a whole bunch of information down there, or it could be all in one page like this. In my current planner, I love that I can see pretty far ahead. This is the Faded Chronicle. And so here I have 26. I have my infusions on here. And then I can totally map out even going forward. This is, as long as these don't move, these will be correct. But I did want to see like where they were landing. Like here in 2028, it lands on Christmas. And I have had an infusion around the holidays, and that week is I have a low week for that week. And so trying to figure out if I can do, sometimes for me, this is my condition, I can bump it 1 week, so it's 9 weeks in between. And it really won't, in my case, it won't alter, like I won't have a flare up because I'm 1 week late. I actually, when I moved here to the Netherlands from the US, I actually had to skip a whole infusion. And so it was 8 weeks after when I was due. And the first 4 weeks, and even the medical people here said the first 4 weeks are fine. You're going to be just fine. I was still not able to get my first infusion for another 4 weeks after that. So yes, a total of 8. So it was like my regular schedule, but that one in between I could not get. I was feeling it the last 2 weeks. I definitely was having flare-ups, and I wasn't feeling good. And I was in bed for a bit. And it brought me back to like the meds that I had tried and didn't work. But if I just bump it 1 week, so if I bumped it 1 week in March, this will bump it, in December until it would bump it to the next year. So that way, if I'm with a bunch of family or something, or if I'm traveling during that time, or if something comes up, I'm trying to think if I ever, in the States, they were very particular. You couldn't have it like the day before, because they really regiment it usually to like, it has to be 8 weeks in my situation with my meds. But sometimes you have to fit things around your schedule. And so that was really important to make sure that that's on my radar, because you're bumping things that are way earlier in the year, and just being conscious of that, of any kind of trips that you're taking. And could I get a shot to bring with me? That's possible. I'm not sure, but anyway, it is very, illness specific. There's going to be so many things that you personally need to track that are different. I would love to hear like what you're tracking below, how you are managing things. This video is meant for people who are kind of newly diagnosed, but I know it's going to still help a ton of people who have been tracking things for maybe a year or 5 years or 10 years. And I find this fascinating because the biggest thing to come away with all of this is being kind to yourself and not overloading your schedule. When you see like how much you're tracking and how much your body is being supported by specialists, by yourself, by family, by making sure that you don't have another flare-up, or you don't feel worse, or if you are trying to get on a different med, like there's a lot of maintenance involved, and planning is one of those tools. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated unless your doctor's asking for that info, and it depends on how temporary that info is that you need to track. It may be that you track it forever. It may be that you track it for a week or two, or for a month or two. So as you're going through and possibly even changing up systems over, amount of time, it doesn't mean something isn't working at all. It doesn't mean that you failed at anything. It's actually that you're listening to your body, and you're listening to what is needed for the next phase, whether it's that you're going into remission, or that something else has popped up and you need to track as much as you can. The other last thing I will leave you with is try to make it as simple and as easy for you as possible. This is not a time to challenge yourself with being the most thorough, accurate, precise thing, unless they absolutely need that information. And hopefully they would give you a tool to gather that information. Maybe it's something like a Holter monitor that is recording all the numbers for you so you're not writing down anything, or you have some kind of digital way to put it into your phone. Something like that is going to help you, and don't shy away from that. Whether it's a really thin notebook, whether it's just a really simple thing that you're trying to put together, take the path of least resistance, because right now that is like just a total gift to you. Is the simpler that you make it, the thing that pops into your mind, like top of mind, may be your answer. It may be that you don't need to make things super complicated. And that's kind of what happened here when I phased this out. It was like, this is great here to capture all this info, but I didn't need it anymore. So then I started phasing out, and I just put some dots, and I was like, wait, I don't need that info anymore. So let's phase it. I'd like right about here, I stopped. And then I just was like, I don't need this information anymore. And I transitioned to a different way of doing things. So listen to that. Listen to what could be easiest for you, because you may not be feeling great. I know this has been a little rambly. I want to thank you for being here. If you have any questions, please put them down below. I linked my health planner videos down below. They're older, but as you see, I brought them out here, and they still work. I still love those layouts. And if you want to see more of these videos, consider subscribing. We have a lovely community here. And consider liking this on the way out so that other people can see it too. When you like and subscribe, it shows up for other people as well. So I would just like this to be helpful to other people. So take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye.